Before you can say she can't go there with that story, Bridget Midway is already taking you there, and then some. Currently living in Virginia, Bridget writes erotica and erotic romances with multiracial characters, and usually with interracial romances. Differences should be celebrated, shared, and explored, not seen as taboo. When she's not writing, she's writing, and writing, and some more writing. To read about her upcoming events, her latest news, or participate in her contest or read exclusive excerpts, go to her website, which is www.bridgetmidway.com. Very nice website. And today she'll be reading from Walls and Fascination Street. So without further ado, let's give it up for Bridget Midway.
I fell in love with his hands. Fuck that eyes shit. Windows to the soul and all that garbage. The hands. That's the real way to know a person, to understand him. And the right set of hands could turn me into butter. Although I don't consider myself a stalker, I'd been watching this man for several days. Okay, it was more like a few weeks. What's a single girl to do during the summer down in Virginia Beach? The bar scene bored me. Not much into gawking at tourists. After a while, they all start to blend in together in a mass of polyester, plastic flip-flops, and cheap sunglasses. Besides, I like to focus my attention on one thing. I wasn't stalking him, not really. It wasn't like I had followed the guy home or anything. I have morals, I have standards. I felt more like a potential buyer checking out a prime piece of real estate. Most buyers would drive by a piece of property they wanted at different hours of the day to gauge the activity around it. How many kids were in the neighborhood? Did the police cars cruise the area a little too frequently, and if so, did they make many stops? What kind of nightlife what was the nightlife like around the home? This man, the one I watched, I knew he was in the diner by the time I arrived a little after midnight. I often wondered what he did before I knocked off at the hospital each night. Was he just getting to the diner right before me, or had he been sitting at the bar for hours, nursing the one cup of coffee he had in front of him and picking over the pie of the day? Or, as I had imagined on more than one occasion, maybe he had just finished making love to a woman. Perhaps he used those large hands of his to make her come over and over and over again. He would use them to stroke her body and make it hum. I love a man who uses roughness in a gentle way, like a bear paw trying to hold an egg without cracking it. Or maybe he was a rough and tumble type, wanting to grab a handful of a woman's hair while he pressed her against the wall while he fucked her. The thoughts alone was making my clit throb so much I had to cross my legs. Smoothing my hands down my sundress I had changed into after work, I sauntered to the counter, purposely standing next to my mystery man. "Check, please," I said. I turned to him before he looked at me. I inhaled, taking in his scent. He smelled like soap, very clean with no hint of cologne aroma. The simplicity of him appealed to me. Let me know he wasn't trying to be a player. Enough of those in my lifetime made me turn off the guy's deck completely. I placed the money in the waitress's hand just as he turned to me. Timing meant everything. "Good night for a walk, don't you think?" he said. His voice wasn't what I imagined either. I expected something tame, safe. Instead, his voice rumbled like he gargled rocks for breakfast, lunch, and dinner. Hearing him open the tap between my legs that caused a small trickle to flow, slowly soaking my panties. "I love these summer nights," I began, ignoring the dampness as I concentrated on his eyes. "Especially down at the beach." I did the coy thing. I looked down and then back at him. Ocean breezes feel great on these hot nights. Nights like tonight, I would change out of my nurse's scrub and wear a light sundress without panties. The cool air coming from the ocean would whip through my legs like a horny teenager and swoop up my dress, sometimes raising it above my waist, exposing my nudity like a lover. Although I had changed into the dress, I didn't think I would get this close to him tonight. I didn't think I would even need to go without panties. Damn me for thinking. Want to take a walk with me? I asked. My brazenness didn't surprise me. He blinked. Up close, I got a good look at his face. Honest, strong jaw, sleek nose but with flared nostrils. His skin had a tint to it, but it didn't look like a tan. His olive skin tone was stuff that artists wanted to paint. "You're not afraid to take a walk in the middle of the night with a man you really don't know?" he asked. "Yes, I am." With my pat response, he smiled. "I'm Carl." He held out his hand. I shook it, surprised to feel the calluses on his palm and fingers. I shivered when I felt the roughness. I fantasized what hands like these would feel stroking my sensitive skin inside my thighs. More waterworks gush. My nipples hard and evident, not only because I felt how tight the tips had become, but also from the way his gaze cut down, then back up to mine. Then I wanted to ask if Carl was short for something, like Carlos or Carlito. Instead, I made up my own persona, or rather, I adopted one. Okay, I stole it. In the hip-hop community, they would call it sampling. Call me Celeste. I would have said my last name was Milagro, but I didn't want to think a black woman like myself could carry off an ethnic-sounding name without some elaborate tale of marriage or adoption. I was no Nikki Giovanni, but then again, this guy was no Einstein. I could have told him I caught Hussein and he probably wouldn't believe me. I dropped the business card in the goldfish bowl that sat on top of the counter, letting it swim around with the other business cards of people vying for a free meal. Maybe the real Celeste would get a piece of pie or a plate of meatloaf and mashed potatoes out of my warped generosity. Carl's gaze fell on the card and a smile hitched up on the side of his luscious mouth. Now his mouth I wanted to kiss. His lips were full but not too big that they looked awkward on his face. Without a word, he paid his bill and walked outside with me, holding the door open for me as I walked through. A gentleman. Southern, perhaps.